Hey everybody, it's Marty, the JavaScript party. I didn't bring Red in. I probably should have. I just forgot. I'm just like sort of like in a different phase of my sort of. I think I'm entering into a different phase of my career and life and all that. So, but I did want to. I've been thinking a lot about this, and the so sometimes you'll hear someone say something along the lines of, "Are you playing the video game, or is the video game playing you? Are you watching YouTube, or is YouTube watching you?" That sort of thing, you know. And um, I've always had a pretty good understanding of kind of what was meant by that. Like, kind of like the general idea is like, if you're playing a video game, for example, you're sort of interacting with it and trying to figure it out, right? It's like going, oh, okay, so if that there's a pattern and it's like 6 digits long, and if you remember the pattern, then you can, at this point you can push this thing, or at this point, you if you remember this set of words or write down this set of words, and you go to this point and you enter those set of words, that kind of thing, like you're figuring the game out. But like what people a lot of people don't realize is that at the same time it's figuring you out. And it's fine. Like back in the day, like when I first started playing video games, like Asteroid and Space Invaders and Pong and things like that, like you would drop a quarter into the machine, they would pay, and then you would get to play for a few minutes. And like during that few minutes, you sort of get a break from reality, like you'd get fully immersed in the game, and then you wouldn't be thinking about whatever your problems are. And then whenever you came back out of it, you'd be like, oh, okay, you have a kind of a fresh perspective. And so like it was very clear, like they paid, I think the most of the companies would pay like $1,200 for the game, and then people would drop $50 a day into it. And so then after like 4 or 5 months, the company's in profit, they have to do repairs on it and all that. It just made sense. But today, the reality is most of the games we play are either free, or they cost like hundreds, if not $1 billion to build, and then you pay like $25 or $80 for it or something like that. So you're kind of paying the cost, but not really, because you are, like, if you were to say, oh, okay, this game, like, 10 million people bought this game at $80 a pop, so the game made this much profit. But like for every game that makes profit, there's probably 10 that don't. So, like the industry in general is not really making money off of the payment for the games. So I've been thinking about that a lot. I've been trying to figure out like a really good way to do it. And I think that ChatGPT was a good source, and I said, so I told ChatGPT, I heard someone say, "Are you playing the video game, or is the video game playing you? What do you think they meant by that?" And then this phrase likely reflects a deeper commentary about agency and control, particularly in the context of video games. Here's how it could be interpreted: engagement versus manipulation. It might question whether you're actively enjoying the game for fun and challenge, or whether the game is designed to manipulate you into compulsive behavior. And that is true, right? Like that is sort of one example. Like you might be playing a game, and and I don't know who they are, but the people who kind of control the game may have a desire to encourage you to do something. And they may be able to have you do certain things in the game to encourage you to do those things. And there's probably a million ways to do it, but that is an example. And then immersion versus reality. It could highlight the idea of being so engrossed in a game that it starts to dominate your time, emotions, or priorities, effectively playing you instead of you playing it. And that is also another issue, right? Like you become like to where you just really need to play the game. Like you can't live without the game. There was a movie back in the 80s called Hellraisers, where they had like this little box, and like you'd start to work on and it was a puzzle, and you'd start to work on the puzzle, and then next thing you know, you were in it, and then you were like being tortured, and it was really hard to escape. And it is kind of crazy how that sort of maps to mobile phones today and all that. So I think that is really another good way of playing it. So I was trying to kind of explain all of these things in one way before, but and then I think the third one is choice, or the third one that it goes is choice versus constraint. It might point out the illusion of choice in a video game. While you think you're making decisions, the game may heavily guide you or predetermine your actions through its design. And that is true too, like, and the thing is it can kind of simulate things that are going on in real life with you. Um, and then like it could sort of guide you to behave in a certain way. So like every time I say yes, when I get four of these, something good happens. But every time I say no, when I get four of these, something bad happens. And then out in the world, you get four of something, and then you immediately reflexively say yes, right? Like it could be like you don't really have a choice in it. You think you have a choice, but you don't, and you don't realize that you're kind of being that's happening. So, anyways, I think the final thing, this phrase seems to invite the reflection of how much autonomy you truly have, and whether you're using the game as a tool for entertainment or being used by it due to design and psychological hooks. That is kind of like a really good way of probably what I said at the beginning of this video. I don't know why I do these videos. I think the reason I do these videos is sort of to force myself to sort of formulate and formalize these ideas that are floating around in my head. I think if I just sort of let them bounce around in my head, they just sort of stay kind of gooey and they don't really ever become like formalized. But if I go and make a video about it that I know other people are going to watch, then it forces me to do something like, oh, let me go to ChatGPT and see what that says. But anyways, I definitely don't want to advocate for not playing video games. I think video games are super important. I think there's been studies, and I don't know if they're true or not, but I've seen TV shows where they said there were studies where people that played base like ESPN baseball were better at hitting a baseball the first time. Like they learned a lot watching the game, and I've heard that like people who play like tank games when they join the U.S. Army and drive tanks are way way better if they've been playing the games in their youth. So like you can use video games to train yourself to be better, and so there's no way, like I don't think you can find success in the modern world if you don't use something like video games or something to train you, to pre-train you. But at the same time, it's like a two-edged sword. If you let it control you, then you don't. It doesn't work for you. But anyways, this is gonna go into my use it or lose it um, thing. I think this is a perfect example of like a video that like today you can just say this stuff and it's fine, but maybe in a few years it might be like so bad. Like I used to watch this guy on YouTube. His name was uh, Broken Bald or whatever, and he would travel all over the world, sort of making commentary about how they live and seeing things and looking at art and stuff like that. And I remember I used to really enjoy his stuff. And then, but he did spend some time in a country that there was later on a war. So I'm not going to say their name specifically because it is a bit of a hot button, but there was a country that got invaded by another country. Now, in all of his commentary, when he went around, everybody was saying how much better it was when the other country had control of this country. And I enjoyed it and all that, but he went to hundreds of countries, right? Like he was going all around the world. He just had like maybe a month or two that he went to this one country about this one thing. And once that happened, I couldn't find his stuff anymore. So, that could happen with this video. Like right now, you can say, hey, maybe you should ease up on video games, and these are some of the reasons, and all that. But and today it's not really a hot topic, but it might be a hot topic in the future. But it is possible if there's already a lot of content like this out there, that in the future maybe people just won't let it get that way. So I do think it's important to for me personally to sort of cogitate and formalize these sorts of ideas in my head for my personal sanity, and then it's important to just use your free speech. If you're American and you have the right to say kind of what you think, as long as you're not really hurting anybody. Um, you know, um, or if you have a right to use your free speech, you should. And as long as we use our free speech, we'll get to continue to use it. But when we stop using our free speech, we will lose it. So, anyways, everybody, hang in there. Bye.